What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Your Story. Today, I'm sitting down with Tsgt Joshua Coll from the United States Air Force. He's been in about 10 and a half years, and we worked together at my last base at Moody, only for a short while, but he taught me a lot. Sergeant Coll, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
First podcast, but I've been interviewed by the Air Force before. But that was in an official Air Force capacity.
I remember that video. That was, I think you were in Turkey during that one. Senior Airman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whenever somebody wants to know something about, like, oh, what do you do in the Air Force or something like that, I always forward them that video. I have it saved, so I can always forward them that one. It's
Awesome.
like, and this guy is now a tech sergeant. At the time, I think you were a staff when I was sharing it out, but this guy is now a tech
Mm-hmm.
sergeant, and I go through the whole spiel. It's always really, really cool. All right. So when you joined, did you join for family, or did you join because you didn't have anything going on and you just wanted a secure job, like I did? Or, what was your inspiration to join the Air Force?
I always knew from a young age I was going to end up in the military. And I bounced around growing up between, what branch was, when I was younger and I wanted to be a badass, I was going to be a Marine. And then I thought being on a boat would be cool. So the Navy was thrown in there. But the Air Force was what I sided on because my dad is career Air Force. I mean, hell, he's actually still in. He's 34 years Air Force. He's a chief up at Warner Robins. And that coupled with the need to get out of where I was because I was in Detroit, Michigan. Um, that's really what set me on the path to get into the military, but it was kind of always there.
So you said your dad is 34 years in
Yep.
and he's a chief. That's
Yep.
crazy.
Yep. He joined 1989, and pretty much right after basic training and tech school, he was sent to the Gulf War, and he's been in just about every conflict zone that the Air Force has been a part of since 1989. He slowed down probably, I think 2015 was his last deployment when he was a senior, and he was an MRAP commander in Afghanistan for that. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So is your dad the only member of your family that has been in the military, or is it like a generational thing? Just like every son is like just expected to be in.
So it is a generational thing, but it's not an expectation.
Okay.
Because I'm in. My younger brother is also enlisted. He's a tech sergeant. He's a boom operator down at MacDill. My grandfather was Army cavalry. My great grandfather was Army infantry. And I think it goes back to the First World War is where you
Wow.
can find my lineage going back to. It might go back further than that, but where I know of is at least to the First World War.
Wow. Like my grandfather was in World War II, but even going back further than that, World War One, that's crazy. I mean, totally, totally different time periods at that point.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your father being on deployments and being out in Afghanistan. Obviously, you're on a deployment right now and can't really talk about that. We can see that just from where you're at, and you were talking before we got on the call about shoddy internet and being out in the middle of nowhere. Honestly, your internet's not that bad from going off of a burner phone hotspot, so it's coming in pretty clear. But what deployments have you been on? What's been your favorite deployment?
So I only have two deployments prior to this one. The first one was to Incirlik, Turkey in 2017, and that was with the 74th, the A-10 unit out at Moody. I was actually load barn at that point. So, and I don't know if you've explained on here before what load barn is,
Mm-mm.
but so the the gist of load barn is we're the ones that certify and inspect all of the loading operations for weapon systems on whatever airframe it is. So I was doing that job at that time. And our mission there was to provide close air support for the rebels that were fighting ISIS in Raqqa, Syria. That was probably the best deployment I ever like. I mean, like I said, this is only the third one, but that out of the three, that one was probably the best because I did my job every day, and that's actually where that interview came from. And then after Turkey, it was like 2.5 years later, I went to Bagram, Afghanistan with the same unit, but I was a one man pushing a crew at that time. So we didn't do a whole lot there, especially because at that point in time, 2020 timeframe, Trump signed that peace treaty with the Taliban, and then COVID. COVID came through, and you wouldn't think that something like that would stop a war or stop fighting, but it did. Like it put a halt on so much across the planet. It was insane.
What experience? You were saying it stopped the halt on pretty much the war for a good chunk of time for that, for the pandemic. But what happened like at the base that you were at? Like how were protocols, implemented? Were you allowed to go outside of the compound, stuff like that?
So where we were on Bagram was a massive installation. Like it rivaled the size of some of our bigger stateside bases. So myself and most of the guys that I was with, we never even left Bagram Air Force Base. We didn't go outside the wire and stuff like that. We're aircraft mechanics. We had no need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that portion of it was never affected for me. However, all of the crazy, COVID protocols that came through about 24/7 wearing a mask, like you should be wearing a mask if you're by your damn self, stuff like that. All of that was implemented. The one thing that really, really, really affected everybody was the gym that we had there, the outdoor gym. Every hour on the hour, we had to go out there, mop the mats with disinfectant, and clean all the equipment and all the weights every hour. And it got to the point where it became so cumbersome because of work and everything else that we just told them to hell with it, close the gym. Like we shut the gym down, which is a huge deal for a deployed location because that's like half of a lot of the guys' lives is just getting shredded, getting huge out on the deployment. So
I mean, there's not much else that you can do out on a deployment, especially out in the middle of the desert.
so I think that's personally, I think that's kind of like an old head
Okay.
fallacy because
Okay.
I mean, especially like Bagram, dude, there was Wi-Fi in just about every section of the camp, and you didn't have to pay for it. It was just Air Force provided Wi-Fi. Uh, if you caught it at the right times during the day, you could play like online games, like you could play Apex on this. So it was that whole like, there's nothing to do on a deployment. That's an old head legacy thing because with the way technology has gone forward, I mean, like you said, I've got I'm running this call off of a burner phone, and I've got unlimited data for it. So I can stream any kind of TV. I can download video games onto my laptop and my Switch and all that stuff. There's always something to do.
When you were talking about the Wi-Fi at Bagram, what do you say to anybody who tries to stereotype the Air Force for, being like the chair force or being the comforting, military, always having the Wi-Fi, never having to, like be in situations that you're actually in right now in the tent, they're always up in
Yeah.
hotels and big fancy meals and all that stuff. What do you say to those stereotypes?
So I say that they are correct at certain points, but uh, for the most part, it's kind of at least for deployment wise, unless you're like a grunt, unless you're an infantryman or someone who's, constantly out of the wire and just doing foot patrol and things like that, it's kind of the same for everybody. All the Army guys that were with us at Bagram, they had the exact same access to the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. They lived in the same hardened shelter building. Some of them were in tents, but a lot of those guys were, like I said, they were the ground pounders. They were the dudes that were going out. And then the other portion to that, though, usually when I'm talking to another, member of the service, if it is the Army or the Marine Corps, whoever giving us hell for it, we always tell them, well, probably shouldn't have joined the Army. Like you kind of knew better. We all know the stereotype at this point. That's your fault for joining the Army. I joined the Air Force. Yet at the same time, there are still places that the Air Force goes that are very austere and very, very, very run down. So,
I mean, and people try to pick on Moody. I've gotten here and, everyone's like, oh, we've heard so much, about Moody, and Moody's pretty run down. To me, Moody wasn't that bad. What were your thoughts on Moody as a base or the area that it's in?
so I mean, Moody is definitely a smaller installation. Like it's not huge or anything, and there's not nearly as many like on base services that you get from your bigger places like Wright Patterson or MacDill. But overall, I don't have an issue with Moody. I've been there 8 years. The area it's a college town, so you get the influx of kids coming in, and then during the summer they usually all go home or go somewhere else or whatever the hell. Uh, and then the one thing I've always said about bases in general, at least for the Air Force, is that you get one of two things. Either A, the city that the base is in has everything that you need in that little city. Take Nellis, for example. But outside of Las Vegas, you're surrounded by nothing. There's just nothing there. Or the other side of the coin, you get a place like Moody where there's not really a whole lot going on in Valdosta, but within a 3-hour drive, you've got Atlanta, all the major cities in Florida, Panama City Beach. Like you get all these different things, and it's within a stone throw. That's how I've seen it for the most part, unless you're overseas. Overseas bases, those are a crapshoot. That really depends on where you go.
What has been your favorite overseas base that you've been to?
Oh, that was Aviano. Hands down, Aviano, Italy. Located right at the top of the boot in Italy. That place was, oh my God. Like the access to the world that you had from North Italy was insane. I was 18 years old, fresh out of basic training, fresh out of tech school, had no idea about like life in general, let alone the military and how it worked and all that stuff. But there would be nights where I had to, like, I couldn't sleep because I'd be jet lagged, and I would just get in the car that I bought for $600. By the way, I bought a working vehicle for $600 in Aviano, because you can't take, most of the time you can't take the vehicles back to the States or wherever you're going with you, so you just pawn them off to the next guy. I'd get in my car at 2 a.m. and just go drive around the cities to remind myself, like, I'm 18, I'm on my own, I can do whatever I want. As long as I show up to work and I'm not, hungover or drunk or whatever, I'm winning. So that was, oh man. But I saw I think there's only like 4 European countries I didn't make it to in the 2 years I was in Albiano.
Wow.
So that place was amazing.
Wow. I mean, and when you break it down like that, the military is pretty simple. Show up to work, not be drunk, do your job. So when you joined, did you initially start on a 4 or a 6-year contract? And would you say the benefit between a 6 is better than a 4, or start with a 4 over a 6?
So I came in swinging, 6-year contract out the gate. As a weapon troop, I didn't go in open general or nothing. I came in with the 2W1 contract, and that was because the original job I wanted got pushed out. And I mean, we can talk about that later in this if you want. But personally, if you're coming in at 18 years old, you don't have any kind of college or anything like that, or if you just really don't have a set like course and you don't really know what's going on, I would say 6 years is the way to go, because it gives you 6 years of your life where it's that simplistic: show up to work, don't be dumb, do your job, and pass your PT test, and you'll get a paycheck. Like, it's money in your pocket, and theoretically at 18, it's not like you have massive debt or anything. So, and it gives you, a good foothold and a good stepping stone. Even if you decide to get out after those 6 years, at least for those 6 years, you have that time to set everything the way you want it, and all of the back end things are handled. Like, Uncle Sam will take care of you if you let him. So
that's kind of what I did. I was fresh out of high school. I had to go through some legal and some medical stuff or something like that when I was trying to join. So I went into the delayed entry program when I was 18, September of 2019, and I didn't leave for BMT until April of 2021. So I had about a year and a half there, where the normal wait is like, I don't know, 6, 7 months at max, maybe. And I was in for like 19 months or something like that. Um,
yeah,
but I was under the same principle. I didn't have anything to do. I needed a steady paycheck. And, apart from my family history, the military was just like, all right, yeah, they'll literally pay all my expenses for the most part, unless you have like a car, or insurance or something like that. They'll pay for the
yeah,
majority of the expenses, and I don't have to worry about it. I haven't ironed a single piece of clothing here, even when I was in tech school or at Moody, because I just I did what we called in tech school hotboxing it, where you put it on a hanger like outside the shower door, crank the water, and you just let the steam do it.
yep, yep,
You know, but
exactly.
but I didn't have to worry about the hot water. I still don't have to worry about the hot water,
Yep,
because I know that part will
yep,
be taken care of, and it's a nice, easy way to iron my clothes.
yep, exactly. And I mean, and that idea can transcend all the way through, like, as you progress through the ranks as well, because as long as you're living, I say try to live under your means. So, when you buy a house or whatever, or you're looking for a place to rent, do your best to go underneath the BAH, or, whatever. And because once you do that, A, it'll put extra money in your pocket. And B, again, if your BAH is $800 and your rent is six, you never have to worry about it. If the money's always there and it's just taken care of.
That's good for stateside, but overseas, I've been told that for your BAH, you have to use like the entirety of your BAH. Like, you don't get that additional money.
Yeah.
Like,
So when I was over there, and I haven't been stationed overseas in 8 years or so, but when I was there, how it worked was that you had a set limit for whatever rank you were, and they would say just max it out wherever you go, get the nicest, craziest thing, because they only, like, the overseas housing allowance only pays for your rent. So if you have you get $800 or whatever, but yours is six, you don't get that extra 200. They just cut it back and they say, all right, that's your rent. And it's a lot of, like, signing agreements and things, and it can be complicated, because I mean, you're in a foreign country dealing with landlords and stuff that don't, uh the English usually isn't their first language and things like that, so it can get muddy.
we kind of touched on it a little bit. You said you were load barn at your previous deployment out in Turkey. What do you do, for as much as you can say, job wise? What do you do at this point? You talked about weapons a little bit. Can you
Oh,
define what weapons is, and what
so
kind of you do?
weapons as a career field, weapons is armament system technicians. We maintain all of the aircraft weapon systems for a multitude of airframes across the Air Force. And on top of that, we are also the singular designated loading component for all bombs, guns, chaff flares, things like that. So it's half being a I I don't like calling us mechanics because we're not so much mechanics as we are armorers. We maintain gun systems and we maintain bomb racks and things like that. And there are points where you are a mechanic, but it's definitely more of an armorer thing. And then the other half of that is the loading. And most people will fall into one or the other that they enjoy more because at a certain point back in the day, and I mean like 80s, 90s was the last time I was told that it was like this. It used to just be you got to a unit and you were designated. You were either a loading component or a aircraft mechanic component. Nowadays, like you saw at Moody and where you are now, you're expected to do everything unless you're back shop, and then back shop is all maintenance.
One thing that you have had a good amount of experience in, and you can tell by this, are religious waivers. Can
Mm-hmm.
you, or waivers in general, can you talk about that? Because there's a lot of, or there have been, especially since I've been in, a lot of controversial, conversations and whether the United States military should allow facial hair, not, clean shaven, what are
Yeah.
your takes on that, and what are your experiences with like religious waivers, for example?
So, out the gate, I just want to preface the whole thing with I hate how when people ask, they're like afraid to be offensive. Uh, it's a very visible thing, but at least for me, it's very visible. So and because we are in the military, I believe you're entitled to at least ask, like, hey man, is that like a medical shaving waiver and you're being lazy about it, or is it a religious thing? Because, like I said, due to the nature of the military, you should be allowed to ask that question without someone being like, "Oh my God, you're offending me and my religion, dude." He's doing his job as an NCO or as an officer or whatever. Like that's part of their goal here. But with that said, so for me, my religion actually wasn't recognized by the DoD for the first 9 years of my career.
Wow.
So I was clean shaven for 9 years straight. And then a friend of mine at Moody, his name was Tucker Irish. He let me know. He came in on it because he came in full facial hair, and I was like, "What happened?" He said, "They finally brought it in. They finally accepted Norse paganism as a religion." And I was like, "No way!" And then he spent this insane amount of time putting together all of the required documentation and the interview chain and all that. So he put in all the ass pain for me and everyone else at Moody, at least for that religion. Because when I went through it, it was a long process, but it wasn't hard. I wasn't pulling teeth. So, but as far as it goes, it was you write the MFR and you push it out to the chaplain corps. Chaplain corps gets back to you, and then you go and you have to do an interview with the chaplain. Usually it's your unit's chaplain at first, and that was I sat down with Chaplain Kawadio was his name. I believe he was a South African Christian. So, um, and he opened it up with a single question, which was, what is your religious journey? Like, what brought you to this religion and how long have you been practicing it and things like that? So I talked with that man for probably 2 hours straight on that first interview because he said he wanted to know everything. And part of that is, in my opinion, was determination of a quote sincerely held belief unquote. So because that's the key phrasing for a religious waiver, especially for facial hair or anything that's out of regulation. The key phrasing is it is a sincerely held belief. So I did that, and then I had to go back through that process one or two more times. And I think the second time, third time, whatever, I think that was really just to see if the story changed. Like basically determining, like, all right, is this kid blowing smoke up my ass, or like just so he doesn't have to shave? Because there are absolutely people who have done that, but the chaplain corps at Moody, at least, was pretty good at kind of picking that out of the crowd. And then after all of that, it goes from whoever does your interview up to the chaplain commander. He or she will essentially give it a blessing of sorts, and then the one that actually signs a waiver is your wing king. So the wing king signed my waiver because I got the blessing across the board from the chaplain corps. Because like I've been at this point, I've been a practicing Norse pagan for 10 or 11 years now, and now, and they do that. I believe they do that. Like that's the chain, so that there is no higher authority that can say, like, all right, well, your unit OIC may have signed that, but your unit commander says no, type of thing. I've got the Wing King's permission to do this, so it's going to have to come from headquarters in order for it to not be a thing, and headquarters isn't going to touch it. They're very I mean, you've seen it. The military in general is very kind of on its back foot, because we're making this huge transition from the way things used to be to how they are now. So
that kind of rolls me into my next question. What changes over the last 10 and a half, going on 11 years from the military have you liked, and what changes do you kind of disagree with?
So again, just a preface, because it's part of the doctrine, so it's very clear. This is all my personal opinion, not sanctioned by the U.S. Air Force by any means. So some of the changes that I actually enjoyed seeing is the fact that there is a push and a movement towards an open line of communication going all around. Because there is absolutely a time and place for the rank structure and how it works. And nope, I'm a tech sergeant and I'm telling the staff sergeant what to do, or the colonel is now telling the OIC this is how this is going to happen. There's absolutely a time and place for that. However, on a day-to-day operational standpoint, you get this huge disconnect with the way it used to be, where it was just, yeah, I don't talk to them because they're airmen, or I don't talk to them because they're the lower NCO tier. Like I'm glad that is starting to go away, at least from what I can see. I remember my first one man. His name was Chico Corvera. He was a tech sergeant. He was like 16 or 17 years in, and he was still a team chief, which that's not a team chief, like time and service and time and grade. You probably shouldn't be a team chief at that point. You should be expediting at a minimum.
Yeah.
But he was. So that guy was salty and angry, and he hated the out of me and my three man, Jared Lentz. He hated us. And the constant, like, you're a fucking idiot, you know that, right? Like, just that constantly coming through is just, oh my God, it was, dear God. So but I have seen less and less and less of that, because guys like myself, and guys that have been in around my time, we're now starting to get to that point in the rank structure. We're starting to move into the staff tech master area, and that is one of the reasons I think that there is such a great shift going on, is that all of the guys, the 20-year guys are starting to move out. But on the other hand, there are things that I don't like that have changed. people will still get too friendly. Because, like I said, there is a time and place for the hard line in the sand, and it once that line gets blurred, that's when you can get weird things. That's when you can start getting the whys and things like that. Which why isn't a bad question, depending on the timing. The way I explained it to one of my airmen when we were in Bagram was, we're deployed, we're in this location, and I something happens, we get mortared or whatever, and I tell you, run, just run, hit a bunker, hit the deck, do whatever, and then you turn to look at me to be like, what? And next thing you know, now you're a casualty. So, uh, but if we're at home station and what, we need you to pull this gun. While we're walking out there to pull this gun, if one of my airmen asks me, why are we pulling this gun? I'll explain that. That's
Right.
fine.
Right.
But the time and place is something that is starting to also get muddled and get blurry. And it's because of one of the things that I like. So, and it's a hard balance, and it's only gotten harder as I've moved up the chain. Because as an airman, you're an airman. You're not really quote unquote responsible for anything.
One of the perks,
You
but yeah.
yeah, you have one. You have your job, and that's that. You don't have to worry about troops. You don't have to worry about supervising people. Someone gets in trouble, you kind of just get to lean back in your chair and be like, damn. uh, and I remember as an airman seeing that and doing that exact thing, going, damn. And then now looking back on it, all I can think is, oh, dude, I wonder how much hell that was for that guy's supervisor. Ooh. But that's some of the things. And then I'll tell you, out the gate, just period, one of the things that I thoroughly enjoyed is that we left ABUs. Oh my God, we got the OCP, and now we can just wear it, because those ABUs were terrible. I would have rather been in PDUs, dude.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I mean, when I initially joined delayed entry, the Air Force was still in ABUs, and frankly, I never experienced actually wearing them. But and I've been told that's an amazing thing that I came in during OCP. But I loved the how they looked. I loved the appearance of them, because you couldn't mistake us for another branch. I don't know how many times I've been back home and they've been like, "Oh, soldier boy, thank you for coming back," and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm an airman, or there were a couple of times, and very, very scared, because I've learned my lesson. But a couple of times where I've been out in public in uniform, and they say, "Hey, soldier, where are you stationed?" And it's like, oh my God, do not call me a soldier. So that's it. That's a downfall that from the OCPs that I've seen. Just not, of course, not wearing the ABUs. But from what I've been told, they're a lot better than the ABUs were. And that you would only get OCPs for deployments, but then once you came back home, you had to go back to ABUs.
Yeah, that's how it was when I went to Turkey. When they issued out the OCPs to everybody, they just sat in this bag, and you stared at them, and you're sitting there wearing this tiger stripe monstrosity of a uniform, and you're sitting there like in load barn. We were just pestering our flight chiefs every day, like, yo, can we please put on the tan boots and the OCPs, for the love of God? And they're like, you're not authorized to wear that here. And we were like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna do it anyways. So all the deployers showed up in OCP, and at the time our chief was actually deploying as well to a different location, but you could see our flight chief was about to just lean into it and be like, I can't believe that I flat out told you no. But as he was about to lean into it, chief walks in, and he's wearing his OCPs. So we were looking at our flight chief like, yeah, go ahead. No, that's fine. We're right here.
Like, hey, what were you about to say?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, chief, you might want to be part of this conversation. This is crazy. So
he's about to tell us that we can't wear ours. You're walking in wearing yours. You got any opinions on that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just it is we actually ended up asking it was Chief Mike Lemke. We asked him about it and Chief was like, "Are you kidding me? I got them issued to me. I'm wearing them." I was like, "All right."
It's like you can't get at
So,
that point any higher of an authorization than that.
hmm especially
Um,
because load barn was such a small element. The Chief was God to us. Like,
if you wanted anything approved, I'm not saying jump.
yeah,
I'm not saying jump over heads, but if you want
no,
an ultimate layer of authority to put something in place, Chief would be the person to do that.
oh for sure.
I'm not, guys. I'm not by any means saying jump over heads. I've learned my lesson
Yeah,
on that
no,
too. Do
don't
not
do
by
that.
any
Yeah,
means jump over heads. It is
yep,
a very convoluted mess if you're gonna try
yeah,
and do that. It's a mess. It
yep.
can
Because
be done. I do not recommend it. It can be
yeah,
done, but for
yeah, that
99.9% of the times, do not even attempt it.
yeah, that's one of those moments in time where I would flat out say like I wouldn't even consider doing anything in that realm before you're an NCO. And then even then, as a staff sergeant, you get very, very minimal play pull in situations like that. And then it gets a little bigger and a little bigger as you get the ranks. But he's absolutely right. Stepping on toes and jumping over people, that's a great way to burn bridges and a great way to be looked at as, oh, this is the guy that when mom says no, he'll go ask dad or whatever, and you don't want that.
Yeah, you especially being an airman, you want to stay in a clean relationship with everybody. I've still got friends. I've got NCOs, master sergeants, and seniors. So actually, Senior Beard
Yeah.
is now at Kunsan. He actually we were on the same flight to Misawa over
Yeah.
here. Well, we were supposed to be. A funny story with that is actually our plane was probably about 3 hours delayed for weight and balance issues. And they actually were calling select people over the intercom to get off the
Mm-hmm.
plane for weight and balance issues. And he was one of those people. So he ended
Oh
up
yeah.
having to catch the next flight. But he's also like, what, 240 built ass,
Oh
giant
yeah.
ass dude,
Yeah.
so not,
Senior
not,
Beard's built like a Dorito, man. Like giant shoulders, small waist. The guy can lift a car. Dude, a testament to that. So the first time I ever met Senior Beard, he was Tech Sergeant Beard, and had just come back from a I call it a Euro trip because they took they took the 74th and they carted them all around Europe, just showing off the A10. And but they came home, they were on the bus. He had been away from his family for 6 months or whatever. And mind you, this man is the like picture of US military. Like this dude has, the baseball playing son, the wife that takes care of everything and can handle it all, the white picket fence in front of the house, the apple pie in the windowsill. Like that is Senior Beard. He is Captain America. So, but they're getting off this bus and he's sitting at the back of the bus and you can see everyone stands up and Beardo stood up and he just started walking through the center aisle and like putting hands on people's shoulders and sitting people down. And then he got off the bus and they're throwing bags off to the side. He walks over, he picks up his bag with one hand. His son at the time was like, oh God, he couldn't have been older than like 4. But his son comes running over, Dad, all this stuff. And he scoops up, he has that bag in one hand, picks his kid up with the same arm, and then he bends over and he picks his wife up over his shoulder. And he's just walking away with all of this. Like, because this man is an absolute animal. He's a tank. So, and they're like, Beardo, we gotta. He's like, I don't gotta do. I'm going home. I've been gone for 6 months. I will get my bags later. There is absolutely nothing you have to say to me. He proceeded to just bounce, and that was the first interaction, and not even interaction. That was the first time I had ever seen Beardo. I was like, who is that guy? That guy is like supremo weapons dude. So you should try and get him on one of these, dude.
that would be really cool. That would be really cool to get him on. And when he got his notification that he was leaving. He started doing all of his out processing and all of that. His replacement came in, and I can't remember his replacement's name, but like we thought Senior Beard was huge. And then this guy comes walking in and he's towering over Senior Beard. And we're just like, what the
Jeez.
like that was like the first time I saw him, he was in civvies and he was just walking through the shop. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know, that dude's like jacked. And then the next shift I come in and he's standing next to Senior Beard. And I'm like, oh my God. And Senior's like, yeah, you know, this is gonna be my replacement. This is Senior so and so. And I'm like, oh my freaking God. Like, yeah, Senior's probably what, 6'3", 6'4", jacked as shit. This guy's easily like
Yeah.
6'6", jacked as shit. And I'm like, oh my God, he's literally looking down at Senior. So the next one I have here is, do you plan on doing your 20, going past your 20 now that you're at 10 and a half, going on 11 years?
Yeah, it's kind of one of the like the coin things that I say is I will be in the Air Force until the Air Force removes me. Um, I will hire tenure out at whatever rank I'm at. So if I never get another stripe, I'll get out at 22 years as a tech sergeant. If I make master, I'll get out at 24, senior at 26 or 8, I forgot, whatever. And if I can make my way up to chief, I'll do 30 years. So, and that's always been a thing for me. The Air Force has provided so much in so many different aspects. There's so many things I've got to check off my bucket list. I've never gone without. Uh, I've made friends that have transcended time zones, continents, cities, states, countries. Yeah, I have absolutely no intention of willingly leaving the Air Force for really anything. There ain't nothing that's going to get me to go away from it.
So you said chief was at like 30 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so how has your dad been in 34 and he's a chief?
So the quick rundown for my dad is that my dad has been all three components. He started off active duty, then he went to the Michigan Guard, and now he's a reservist. So with reserves, it's a point-based system for retirement, and every drill weekend, every time that you actually put the uniform on, it counts as points towards this. So he had to go over the 30-year mark to get a 20 or 30-year retirement in order to get the full benefit of it. So if you stay active duty your whole career, you will get out at 30 years as a chief. That's the higher tenure. That's when they tell you you're done. But the Guard and Reserve work a little differently. So that's how he's been in for 34 years, is because he's been reserved for most of it, but he's been a lot of AGR, which is Active Guard Reserve.
I was just about to touch on that. Yeah. Can you give a good definition of AGR? Because basically how it was explained to me was you're on a reserve timeline where you only go in once a month, but like you're getting paid for active duty. I've been told it's like the golden gem of the Air Force that nobody really knows about. Why do you think that it's such like a non-talked about thing? And can you explain it further to your knowledge?
So to my understanding, what it is that AGR, they have two jobs. They have their military commitment, which is the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year thing. But the 5 days out of the week that they are at a unit, it's usually a partner unit with an active duty side, because I'm sure you saw that at Moody with the 75th. A lot of their reserve guys are AGR dudes, and that's why they come into work Monday through Friday, but they're a civilian that wears their rank and a uniform kind of just to blend in, so they're not like as dimed out. But as far as it goes, they are their own command chain, their own everything. They work hand in hand with the unit. They don't work for the 75th. They work with the 75th, which is why you can absolutely get moments in time where your expediters will ask things of the AGR guys. They don't walk out there like to all the other to the active duty dudes and tell the crew like, all right, you guys are pulling a gun. They don't do that to the AGR guys. They say, hey, everyone else is swamped. Can you pull a gun? And as far as I understand it, it's entirely up to the whoever they just asked at that moment in time. They can be like, I don't want to do that, and then they don't, or they'd be like, yeah, dude, no problem. And for the record, at least at Moody with the 75th, I never really saw them say no. They were always down to help. They were always down for the cause. I had a couple good ATR friends out there. One of them was Jeff Duda. Um, he was a good dude. He actually ended up in Load Barn with me for a while as the reserve component for Load Barn. Um, and then the other thing is those HER guys, they usually have a lot of time in service, and they don't, because they're reserve, they don't move around bases like we do as active duty. So they'll end up on an airframe for a long time, and they will have just this incredible wealth of system knowledge that it's oh my god, it's an untapped resource.
So why do you think AGR is not really talked about too much? Like when you're coming into high school, or when you're when you're in high school and the recruiter shows up, he's talking active duty or possibly officer, and then he has to forward you to somebody else, or to reserve and he has to forward you to somebody else. But AGR really isn't talked about too much.
So, and that, as far as I understand, is because in order to get an AGR job, you have to be a reservist first. I don't think
Okay.
you can, I don't believe you can just like go in with an AGR. You have to make your connections and all that. And then that's another portion of it is the reserves. From my experience in watching, because my younger brother and my dad are both reservists. That the reserve component is a really, really big connection game. It's it's about who you know and what their opinion is of you and things like that. Like, because my brother actually got his boom operator job. He got that because of my dad's old connections that he had with the 927th Air Refueling Wing at Selfridge that got moved to MacDill. So, and that was literally like my dad making phone calls to the colonel and a few other chiefs and people here, left, right, up, down, saying, hey, my son is trying to join. He wants to be a reservist. He wants to be a boom operator. Do you guys have slots? Do you guys have this? What do you need from him? This, that, the other thing. And then I'm sure somewhere in that conversation was also like, what does the HER situation look like once he does get to the unit and things like that. It's definitely a buddy system with them, which has its ups and downs. If you're one of the guys that clashes heads a lot and things like that, probably not gonna pan out for you. But men like my brother and my dad, they're pretty personable people. They talk to everyone. They try to know everyone. Uh, it worked out real well because, as far as I understand, my brother is living the dream. He's an AGR boom operator, and he's been in. I think he's coming up on 7, or maybe just hit 7 years, and he's a tech sergeant. So
With being in the deployed location that you're at, or previous deployments, or something like that, I was talking to you about this through the messages, but can you just explain how you deal with being away from family for so long? I know just being in, I mean, with this being my first overseas base, having that big time jump, is it can kind of get a little complicated. I'm trying to sleep and everybody back at home is awake, and the only times we can talk
mhm.
are, like early in the morning or late at night when I'm trying to sleep. So how do you deal with the time and being away from family?
For me personally, because I come from a military background, a lot of my family, they kind of just get it, if you will. And that's something that's really hard to explain to people who either are part of the military and just don't deploy or haven't or whatever. or haven't been to an overseas assignment, it's kind of difficult to explain other than you just get it. Like they just understand. Uh, and then on top of that, I've always been kind of a loner. I don't I don't keep a very huge circle of friends or anything like that. Like most of the people that I knew from high school and all that stuff, like 10 years ago, I think I talked to maybe one, two of those guys now, and that's still very sparsely. So that's not really a thing for me. And the thing is on top of that, the military and the military aspect, as far as that goes, my dad always told me, yeah, and trust me, the longer we talk, the more little gems you'll hear that my dad has said. My dad has said this because I get so much information from that man. But one of the things he said way early on in my career is he was like, Josh, you will meet guys that you're like, all right, yep, that's the dude or whatever, and then you might run into him at a base later, and it's whatever. However, there will be people that you meet that you will connect with almost instantly, and you will remain in contact, and you will go 5 6 years without seeing them in person. You might shoot a message here and there, whatever, but the moment they come to your base or you go to them or you're deployed together and you just run into each other, those 6 years shrink down to about 2 days, and it's like you were never separated. But you guys can, clink a beer in the airport, talk for a few hours, like you never even left each other's company, and then you just go back to your lives. And I think it's a bit of a skill, um, and that's how a lot of it operates. So, but to touch back on your original question though, so the time differences and things like that, that's why like for I don't know if it's going to be mirrored or not, but on the home screen to my phone, I don't know if it'll actually show it or not. I've got two different timetables going on my phone. My watch has the local time, and then in the upper right corner is also the time for back home, and then it also has Zulu time on it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So again, with the whole integration of technology and whatnot, I don't have to do math anymore. I look at my watch and I'm like, all right, it's 4:37 in the morning here, and the upper right corner of my watch says it is 8:37 at night back home. It's that easy.
You don't have to do
So
math until we're trying to coordinate this call, and then math is
yeah,
a
right.
giant. And then math is a giant thing.
And then another big word for all of it is sacrifice. And it is, or it should be, from both sides. Sometimes you will sacrifice going to bed and you will stay up an hour or two later, whatever, so you can talk to your wife, your girlfriend, your mom, like whoever. And then the other side of the coin, there will be times where, they have to sacrifice. They will get up early, or, you will call them and it'll be 4:30 in the morning for them. And they like, oh God, what? Oh, dude, I haven't talked to you in a few weeks. What's up? So,
Been there.
yep. And that's one of the big words for really military service in general is sacrifice. And you got to take care of yourself as best you can, but it's a volunteer service. No one was forced into this. We don't have a conscription. There is no draft. So everyone is here by their own accord.
So with the sacrifice, you know, side of things, and I think we kind of touched on this in messages, and I don't have it on my notes here, but I think it is an interesting question with military movies and movies that try to showcase, what service members go through, like American Sniper, for instance.
Right.
How accurate are a lot of these movies, in your opinion? Do they captivate, or do they showcase the military to a sense, as in an accurate perspective? What is the worst example of a military movie that you've seen?
So, as far as like the worst example of a military film would be, honest to God, it would be something like I don't know, you might be too young, but like Iron Eagle. You ever seen that?
Yep, I remember Iron Eagle. Yep.
Like
Yes.
that is a piss poor example. The other thing is though is the one thing that I have seen, especially coming from Hollywood, is it's always about stuff that the average airman, soldier, marine doesn't have any contact with, like American Sniper or 12 Strong. You know,
Mm-hmm.
those movies, good movies based on real events. But the thing is, you know, I'm not Delta. I'm not a Navy SEAL. You know, I'm not Special Forces. I have no idea what their guys is what that life is like. I have no idea how accurate that portion of the military is because it's just that's so far outside of my wheelhouse that I couldn't even tell you. But what I would say a good example is stuff like Band of Brothers or the Pacific, because that does a good job of touching on just the daily life. Like, you know, when they're sitting around playing cards and then bombs drop and everyone hits the ground, like, and then you all look at each other like,
Holy
all right,
shit,
that
is
was
this really
crazy.
happening? Yeah.
Also, and the thing is after a certain point, you're not even asking if it's really happening. You're just like, is everyone okay? All right, cool. And then you get right back up and you go right back to playing cards. Like, dude, constantly.
I laugh at it, but I've never experienced that. So
No, and that's just it though, is it is funny. It really is. And I would say for anybody who sees this, a very good depiction of pretty much anything to do with day-to-day military life comes from uh, streaming service called Vet TV.
okay.
Dude, those guys, they make a myriad of different like segments and shows and stuff that showcase like daily life of the military and how we're all, it doesn't matter what branch you go to either, we're all kind of rough around the edges. We're mean to each other, but you know, you're not allowed to be mean to my friends. Only I'm allowed to be mean to my friends, type of thing. Um, just some of the crazy that people say,
Yep.
especially in war zones and stuff like that. Like,
Especially in
dude,
maintenance, like just maintenance in
yeah,
general.
exactly.
I
Because
call it
one of the
maintainer humor. Like you just, there's no way to
exactly,
describe it, you know?
you know, and everybody always thinks that you know their section of the military is the raunchiest section, or like they yeah we've got the most up people and all this stuff, and I'm like, no, what you need to realize is that all of us are kind of that way, and it takes a veteran to understand a veteran.
Yep. Yep.
um so but yeah, man, a lot of Hollywood is a lot of things that most people across all six branches will never see. Like combat in general is not something that happens as often as like the movies make it out to be. This isn't World War II. You know, we're like, there is no place in the world where the US is where we're like pushing a front line right now against some great enemy. That's not happening. So the thing is like, I think it's another content creator named Matt. He does, I think he started on TikTok. He's Matt's all right. But either way,
Okay.
he, he said it's something like 2% of the U.S. military will ever actually see combat in the current wars. Like, even if you're an infantryman, like it just doesn't happen as often as the movies would lead you to believe that it does. Uh, because deployments are a lot of sitting around, waiting to do your job a little bit, go back to sitting around. So that that's where Hollywood gets it wrong. Is not everything, actually very few things are this like huge grand event that's life changing, but at the same time, that's why they're movies. You know what I mean? You know, like 12 Strong, there's a reason why they made a movie about that. American Sniper, they made a movie about that man because of the crazy, you know, just like, holy crap, this guy did all this shit.
Yeah.
Or like Black Hawk Down, that was a huge um military changing event. Like, there were standard operating procedures that were rewritten because of what happened in 1993 in Mogadishu. And that's why they make movies about it. They're not going to make a movie about, you know, the the crusty maintainers on the A10 sitting in bog room, telling fart jokes and, flipping each other off every chance they get. They're not gonna make a movie about that. It'd make a great TV show like The Office
Oh,
or
it
something
would.
like
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's where the vet TV thing comes in. They did that. They did that. It's called the Grunt's Life. It's arm or I think it's Marine Corps. It's Marine Corps infantry guys. And it's just their little mashup of what they did while they were deployed. And so much of it is just the stupid pranks that they play on each other, and the sitting in the mortar pit and they're launching mortars, and one of them is like using like the binoculars on a stick, and he's like, I believe that was a hit, sir. And the other guy's hanging the mortar. He's sitting there in body armor with no t-shirt on and hanging the mortar, and he's like, shall I send another? He's quite right. Boom. Like, that's how it happened, man. We are just people, there's no grandness to what most of us do in the military.
I mean, you have to throw some type of humor behind it. People look at me and they say, is there anything, that you'll never forget about the military? I said, yeah, I will never forget the guys specifically in that shop and being like, I never wanted to be in maintenance. I detest maintenance. And now I'm doing it for the next 5 years. But I would not trade the people who I've worked with, because you will never find another group, like Air Force maintainers. Like, you just won't find it.
Absolutely.
And as much as I hate the job, that goes into the embrace the suck, and that's a common phrase that's heard around the military, but it's so true, especially working on this piece of hunk jet that we've got that keeps breaking and they don't want to make any more parts for, that we have to jerry rig whatever to keep it working, it's the experiences that you'll never, have again. The job might be total dog shit, but it's the experiences that you'll never have again. And that's one thing that I'm really not seeing being in back shop, but being in back shop, it's taking the toll off of my body that I had out on the line. I remember it was like 3 or 4 nights in a row we had probably 9 or 10 cap 9 moves, and I have no idea why we were moving that many 9s around at a time, especially that many nights in a row. But I had a big purple bruise on the top of my shoulder from that. And so by the 3rd night, I was starting to like lean over and put it like on my back shoulder blades, keep the pressure off of on top of my shoulder. And then it started to crawl. The bruise started to crawl down my back. And, oh my God, it was excruciating.
But so stuff like that, though, is based on, like you said, on your expediter, man. Because I remember the same thing. There were certain guys that I worked for that it was, nope, we're here until it's done. And then there were other guys that were like, do you think you could turn this over to this guy? And I sometimes would be like, yep, I can do that. And then other times I'd be like, if it's going to him, I need to get this done, or whatever, what have you. So like, do you remember Sergeant Newton?
Yep.
Yeah. So John was one of the guys that if I had to turn something over, I could turn it over to John. It didn't matter where I was, what I was doing. I could walk in and be like, hey, John, this is where I got. The rest of it, or whatever you can get done, is up to you. And he was like, all right, sweet. High five. I'd come in the next day. I got half the job done. He got the other half the job done. And it would fly just fine. But there were definitely other people where it was like, yeah, I'm not turning this over. Like, nope, not going to do it.
But that's part of playing the game. People, I was talking to somebody last night and they said, why are you anxious? And I said, or why do you have anxiety? And I'm like, it's playing the game. Whether you think about it or not, it's a game. What you can do, what you can't do, the right moves to make. I remember I went through when I went through ICER, the ALA at Load Barn, really, it wasn't working, or it kept jamming up the jet, or something like that. And so they taught us how to hook up the ALA, and they said, oh, you'll learn the rest out on the line, which I absolutely, after experience, I hated that they made me do that, because now they actually take the airmen in ICERT and they do an ammo load out on the line.
So the thing is they used to do that for a long time, and then we got a chief in when I was in Load Barn. They got a chief in that said we're not doing that anymore, and he wrote a whole policy, and that's why it was that way. So apparently, one of the new chiefs that has come through in the past couple of years said that's dumb and redacted that policy, which I agree entirely with you. That's how they do that.
I mean, an R square should maybe take at most what 20 minutes, maybe at most. If you're a really
Yeah.
experienced crew, you can get it down less than that. You know, but we
Oh,
were, but I was doing a simple upload, just simple
mm-hmm.
upload. But I was learning as I was doing it, and Garcia was teaching me as I was doing it, and that single upload probably took 45 minutes.
Yeah. And the thing is a lot of things like that. Because loading was always my core.
I love
I
loading. I
know that.
miss it
Oh yeah.
dearly. I miss loading dearly.
Yep. And dude, I don't being with the helicopters now. I don't load anymore, dude. Like it's all maintenance. It's all maintenance because it's all man portable gun systems. But I used to, because you said 20 minutes for an R square. Me, when it was, I'm trying to remember the time frame. We were in the shop together because I'm trying to remember who my troops were. I had Carias Rodriguez and Paulo Neri. They were my crew. We were so good as a crew together that we got our square ammo loads done. Like I think the fastest one we ever knocked out was like 7 minutes, 6 minutes.
Wow.
Like, dude, we were, but it was because of years working together. Like, I didn't, and they were both very experienced senior airmen. Uh, I didn't have to tell them anything. We just showed up and we all did our part, and all the puzzle pieces fit together so well that we blasted through everything. And it was always the best part is that our work, Crew 15, our work was always impeccable. Like it was always done right, and that was why I've got tattoos for my load crew, man. So um yeah, 7407. I think mine is. Oh, it's half a crew tattoo, and the other it's half a memorial. I don't know if you can see it very well, but the AK-47, and then in Ukrainian it says Ekipage Priodnoitsev, which is crew 15. So, but man, we were we were so quick. We were so good.
That's
So
one thing that, do you remember Sergeant Daramo?
hell yeah, Mike. Me and Mike
Yep.
are good friends.
Yeah. That's he was my first one man. And
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah, he, me,
Dope.
and Hansen, Airman Hansen.
Okay, yeah.
Um, and one thing that he prided himself on was, I don't care if we're the quickest, but I want to make sure that, like you said, we are the best, with our work.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And he said, I'd rather
Yeah,
you learn the right way versus learning the wrong way, cutting corners just to make it faster. Because
yeah,
eventually, I forget the phrase that he said, but by doing it right, you'll become efficient at it, and being efficient at it, you will develop the speed.
yeah. That it reminds me. I think the phrase is what is it? Slow. It's like slow is good, good is fast.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's something to that
Yeah.
degree because I operated under the exact same principle. I mean, at one point in time, Mike was my 3 man, so I was never his supervisor.
Okay.
Um, but I was his 1 man for this month-long TDY in
Okay.
Alaska.
Gotcha.
But I never ever ran into that issue with Mike. There was always a mutual understanding and respect between the two of us. Mike knew that he could ask me anything about this job, and I knew that I could go to Mike with, adult shit, like being an adult. So, and his his attitude towards the military and weapons and everything is probably one of the shining examples of how you should be, because almost instantaneously, people in the higher echelons of the shop were like, "This dude needs to be promoted now," and they're like, "He's been in for like a year. We can't give him a staff stripe." They're like, "That's fine. Give him BTZ. I don't give a make this dude an NCO as quickly as possible."
He was a senior airman when I met him.
Yeah, and they like because the flight chiefs will go through and ask the NCOs like, "What do you think about these guys as far as work and stuff goes?" And you give them your answer. And whenever I got asked about Mike, I always told them that the dude was impeccable. He knew how to listen, but he also knew how to give command. He was incredibly proficient, and if he wasn't proficient at something, he would sit there and just drill it and drill it and drill it until he knew what he was doing.
There are definitely some people that, you know, if I had to pick the guys that I would run into the line of fire with, there are definitely some people that I would throw to the fences, but there are definitely some people like Mike, you, even though we didn't work for very long, I would take you with me. Yuri, I would take him with me. You know, one of my buddies who's over in the 75th right now, I would take him with me. You know, people that I know are Senior Beard. You know, people that I know, you know, would ride or die. You know, and they know what they're doing. They're proficient in what they're doing, but they also care, you know, for the person that they're with, and they would do anything for the person that they're with.
I mean, hell, when me and him were, because this is the second deployment we've been on together. When me and him were in Afghanistan together, how I really got to know him, or how I met him even, was so after we get mortared, we'd have to wait, and then we'd get the all clear, and then you'd have to go outside and basically look around for bombs and shrapnel. So I put on my kit, I grabbed my rifle, and I'm standing at the door waiting. But you had to go out in two-man teams. No one followed me. Like, no one got up. And I was about to turn around to go just pick someone. Be like, all right, fine. If no one wants to do it, I'm going to make an executive decision. I go to turn around, and I get this dude, and it's just hand on my back. And I turn around, full kit, helmet, rifle. And he's like, let's go. I was like, oh, all right, sweet. So literally came to the point of, like, we have to go do something that is at least mildly dangerous. I'm with you. So, and that's where this whole thing's really started.
Yeah. And it just snowballed.
Yeah, now it's just what it is now, man.
Our Thunder buddies for life.
Yeah.
A lot of memories over at 74th. As much as I was physically and mentally exhausted by the workload and everything, and learning literally every day, it's a lot different over here. And the amount of memories you make from that top the physically and demanding mental stress of it on all day, every day.
Yeah.
That deployment especially was so fun. Everything about especially that was with having a good crew. Both of my good crews, I was able to keep my 3-man the whole time I was over there. And I was telling him the other day, like, we could go out and have 3 stickies attached to each other, and we could go out and not say a single word to each other about work, like what to do. At that point, we just knew what the we did, and we could just talk and have fun and bull the whole time without having to worry about stress of the work, because we knew what we were doing. We had such a good routine.
Yeah, but you and Murray were so freaking close that you could tell that Murray was in the bathroom because he would fart, and you'd be like, "That Murray?"
No, I could tell when Murray's in the bathroom because our schedules were lined up. We're like women in college dorming together. Our poop schedules lined up like their periods.
It really did, dude. It was wild.
Murray would be like, "I gotta," and be like, "You know what's crazy? I do too." Like every day. So are you out now?
No, I'm at I'm at Osan.
Oh, you went to Osan? Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah, I went to Osan. I got here.
Is that non-ball?
I had it on my dream sheet from way back in BMT, but then I was told when I got to Moody that I either had to be there for 2 years or get my 5 level. And I was a 3 level when I got notification that I was coming here, and I had been there for about 8 months.
Yeah.
And so
you knew the whole time you were at Moody?
No, I knew about 6 months in advance that I was coming here. But it shocked me because I was told that I had to be there for 2 years or get my 5. and I'd been there for
Yeah.
8 months at that point, and I was still a 3. And but because I was told that when I got there, I never updated my dream sheet. So technically it was volunteered, but I didn't have any plans for at least the next year to move around. I just gotten settled in at Moody, just gotten in a groove, and then they picked me up and they moved me.
Well, technically volunteer, but technically volunteer, but it came through as a non-vol because he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, so that's what I thought of as non-vol is if you BOP or put in for a job or physically put in a form to go somewhere.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He had it on his dream sheet, so according to the Air Force, he volunteered.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that was a year ago and what I had been told. So but you know, that's the only explanation that I can think of why they picked me up, because there were other, you know, senior airmen in the shop that have never left. And they were like, well, why the hell did you get this assignment? And none of us ever did, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that was the only difference between me and them, was that I kept it on my dream sheet, you know, and never moved it. So
Korea is always the out, man. If you're ever at a base that you don't like and you're not in the pocket for a BOP or something, put Korea in and they'll take you. Eventually it'll come through. For weapons, it's always the out.
I'm sitting in a pocket of BOP right now, and I have no idea where I want to go or what airframe.
Just stay here with me forever.
Yeah, I'm here all the way through December 23. I think it's January 24 is my DROS.
So I have a question for you. Do you intend on staying?
For 20?
Maybe.
If I stay in this job, I don't intend on staying. You know, I don't plan on it.
So then a follow-up to that would be, if you could cross-train, what would you cross-train to?
Some type of non-or job.
I was going to say, what would the Air Force have to give you in order to get 20 out of you?
Some type of non-or job.
Hey, man, you can always do it. John Newton, he cross-trained. He's contracting now.
Yeah, so, I mean,
cybersecurity.
Yeah.
We had another kid go to manpower.
Mm-hmm. I know I said it earlier on this call, but Uncle Sam will always provide. And if you pay attention to your windows and things like that, you can get pretty much anything you want out of the Air Force. There are some times where you kind of get screwed. Like I got screwed out of cross training by actually making rank. Like I was like right when you got to the shop in the 74th, I was like halfway through the process of being a special mission aviator, a door gunner, and I just got my IFC-3 approved, which is the medical side of the house for flying. And then I was leaving load barn, and we had passed all of our loads, so I was trying to go home. Padilla called me, the expediter called me, and was like, you need to come back in the shop. And I was not having it that day because I had it out with load barn, and I got into a fight with them, and I was just pissy, dude. Oh my God, I was pissy.
Oh, those load barn guys.
I'm on the phone with this guy, and I'm like, what in the do you guys need me back in this shop for? And he's like, I said come back. I was like, all right, you know what? Fine. So I pull into the parking lot, and he calls me back, and he's like, you know what? Never mind. You'll find out later. It's not a bad thing. Just don't worry about it. It's like, It's like, I'm here.
Yeah, it's like, you got me here. Like, don't tell me not to show up. Yeah.
Dude, I walk up to those doors in the back. And I fling that door open, slam that thing open. Padilla is the only one in the shop. Everyone else is gone. I walk in there, and I had a finger up like that. I was about ready to just start pointing and screaming. And he's like, would you calm the hell down? I was like, you. I did everything I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to be going home. And he's like, dude, calm down. You made tech. I was like, I did what? Yeah. I was like, dude, and like I said, dude, I was on one. I was pissed off. I was like, Padilla, that shit's not funny.
Would you just call me?
Yeah. I was like, that shit's not funny. No. Like, what am I here for? He's like, dude, everyone is over in the AMU building because the major is handing out stripes. Your name is on that list. Go get in line. I was like, what?
Like total mood change. Total mood change.
Well, that's just no, I'm hard.
Well, the thing is it was super bittersweet because that cross train. I opened up my email the next day, and I had an email from the career field manager of the 1 Alpha 9 field, the SMAWs. I had an email from him that said, "Hey, so I know that you've been approved all the way through for all of this, but we're not taking you. You're not cross training." And I was like, "What, Chief? Why?" And he was like, "Cause we're not taking tech sergeants. We're not taking E6. I think he said they were like 106% manned for E6.
Czech said they're still kicking out techs out of smalls.
Yeah, there's like moving them into different fields. Yeah.
Damn.
Hey, pick a job.
Yep. They're forcibly removing tech sergeants out of the 1 Alpha 9 career field because they're so overmanned for it.
Can you imagine that? Someone just like, pick a job off this list because you're not here anymore.
And that was that job was my my dream job. That's what I came in to the Air Force trying to be, was a helicopter door gunner. And all the way back at the beginning, my recruiter had me in a spot, and then he called me back and he's like, "Hey, all of your medical clearance hasn't been done yet, but I have a kid that already has his medical clearance, so he's taking your spot."
Oh.
Yep. But my recruiter was like, "I can get you another 1 Alpha 9 contract, but it'll probably be like 9 months to a year that you'll sit here." And I was like, "Not a chance, dude. I'm not sitting in Detroit, Michigan for that long. I'm not doing it." And he's like, "All right, well, I guess pick another one." I was like, "All right, what is the soonest available, And he gave me a list of different jobs. One of them was a crew chief for, I think, F-16s and stuff like that. And then I saw armament system technician, and I was like, "What is this?" And he said, "Your weapons." I was like, what the hell is weapons? He was like, "You load bombs and play with guns, basically, like aircraft guns." And I was like, "Oh, I bet."
Little did he know that's like 10% of the job.
Yeah. I was like, that sounds pretty close to, ish what I was just trying to do. So he 100% got my ass, because as you know, that is not even close.
It's like loading is like 10% of weapons.
Oh yeah.
That's all it is. Maybe you're at EOR sending the jets out. That's like a 2% chance. But loading is like 10% of the job. It's, oh my God, it's nasty work.
Well, what's crazy though is that your first airframe was one of the heaviest loading airframes there is. So like, you'll never load like you did with the A-10, man. Like, you won't. He's back shop for F-16s. So
I'm back shop for A-10s.
Oh, A-10s.
Hey, 1 second.
What?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. If you do this again with him, I'll talk to you later, bud. Stay safe, and I hope to work with you soon.
All right. Yeah, man.
See you, buddy.
But yeah, you're that airframe is one of the heaviest load outside of bombers. It's one of the heaviest loading airframes. So like, you probably won't ever load like that again, unless you end up on F-15E models. The strikes, they load like the A-10s, but all other airframes, dude, they don't hold a candle. So you're seeing 10% with your knowledge as an A-10 guy. It's even less with other airframes, man.
I mean, and I miss loading. I was talking to Garcia the other day. I said, that's one of the down parts about being in back shop is I miss loading.
Yeah.
There's just something, you said it in that interview, back in 2017, there's just something about it. I think, your exact words were, "It's the greatest feeling in the world."
Yeah, it is, especially in a deployed environment. Because I've actually watched that interview a bunch of times throughout the years since I did it, to see
and you winged that entire interview.
Oh yeah, 100%. There was no script involved.
You winged that entire thing, and it was every single bullet point you could hit. You hit it.
Yeah, that's so. My dad actually said that to me when he saw that interview. He was like, "Dude, you were born for cable television, because you used every buzzword and like were the most positive thing involved. Like he was asking, he's like, was that scripted? Did you like write that script or did they give you one? I said, no, dude, that was all off the top of the dome. And he was like, holy kid. Yeah, man. I said it in that interview. And like I said, I go back and I watch that every now and again just to see if my ideas and my views have changed. And it really hasn't, especially in a deployed place. Like one of the things I said in that was I know exactly what I do for the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have to question like why am I here? What am I doing? No, I know exactly what I'm doing. So because when at the end of that little campaign, when ISIS had their caliphate of Raqqa taken from them by the rebels, backed by our soft forces and the A-10s, that was a direct contribution, in my opinion, to the betterment of the world. Because for 6 months straight, we did nothing but eradicate a bunch of scumbags that like to, stone women to death and burn people in cages and shit. So there was never a moment in time where I was like, oh man, this is crazy. I was like, nope, kill them all.
You were like Senior Beard in that regard, where he will eat, sleep, breathe, die weapons.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing is that this wasn't the job that I originally intended on coming into, but I do not regret it, and I am not upset that I am weapons. And it's disheartening to a degree to hear, like you say, like this isn't really my gig, but that I also don't believe that that's a bad thing. Like it's not for everyone. Just like I would be losing my absolute mind if I worked at a desk job. I would hate everything. I probably would not have the same opinions about the Air Force that I do if I was finance or something like that. I'd lose my. So
I mean, this job, I understand the overall mission, and especially being here in Korea, we have to we have to worry about North Korea, we have to worry about China, Russia,
yep,
everybody, like I am in the hot spot of everything right now.
yep,
And I understand that aspect of it. I like I said before, I miss loading dearly. It sucks that I was never able to load lives, and they load lives
yeah,
here, but I don't get to do that. I
hmm,
miss it dearly. But it's the maintenance part of things and the maintaining part of things that drive
yeah,
me absolutely crazy. But the end result is amazing.
yeah. And it always has been, man. So even with being in a helicopter unit, the helicopters in general across the Air Force, it's the Csar platform, the Combat Search and Rescue, and that that actually brought a different light from being a weapon troop because on just about every other airframe, it's kill, 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 kill. That's what weapons does. We load bombs, we load bullets, and it is to bring absolute destruction to the enemy. With the helicopters, though, that is not the name of the game here at all. The weapon systems on the helicopters are defensive purposes. That's it. Like the helicopters in the Air Force are not used as an attack platform in any way. And the goal for the helicopter units is to save lives. Like out here it's all about um, going out and picking up the guys that got hurt, bringing them back, keeping them alive, getting them to where they can stay alive, and then keeping the numbers up. So, and that was a huge departure from what I have known for 10 years, and it was something that was weird for me to wrap my head around. I mean, it's all over. I don't know if you can read that, but the headband says that others may live. Like that's the whole thing. These things we do that others may live. So, uh, but it gave a new sense of pride. It's a different mission than what I'm used to, but it's a new sense of pride of yeah, you know, I we not even we do these things, and because of that, someone on the worst day of their life came out of it alive. And then the other piece with the helicopter units is they are really big on trying to not have everybody be just their job. The nature of the whole thing is a small footprint in places, and then so like our pro super here, he's a comm nav guy, but he knows pretty much all the crew chief. We have an engine troop here with us, but again, he knows pretty much everything to do with the helicopter in general. Like he doesn't just know the engine; he knows everything. So that's also a departure from the norm.
During my experience over the last year and a half, I've heard several airmen and other service members, when they've been thanked for their service, they've said, it's just a job, or I'm just doing my job. After being in for so long, what are your thoughts on that?
So whenever someone says that to me, my response has always been, thank you for the support. That's what I tell people. Because they're not necessarily wrong. You know, to a lot of people, it's just a job. You know, I do what I do type of thing. The idea of thinking of it as just that never sat well with me, because I said earlier, we're a volunteer force. So we sign up to do these things. We sign up to go to all these places and meet all these people and talk to this person or that person and do your job. Sometimes it involves loading bombs on A-10s and putting warheads on foreheads. Other times it involves talking to the locals, the local nationals, trying to make sure that they don't fucking hate us. Like, but we volunteer for this so that not everyone has to do it, you know, because it's not always a safe place. You know, I've got a ball cap that I wore in Afghanistan that has the tally marks of every time they drop mortars on us. And it does give me a sense of pride, or not pride, but it gives me a sense, like a good feeling that because I am willing to do this, someone else doesn't have to. You know, the kid who grew up and had no interest in being in the military at all, or whatever, they don't have to. And I'm good with that. You know, if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's cool. That whole it's just my job thing. Yeah, I can understand it, but that's never been my view on it. Like, and maybe it's because I absolutely love my job. I love what I do, immensely love what I do, and it's always been like that. I never had a point in time where I was like, nope, I'm done, I'm getting out. Nope, that's never happened. I've always, even when I was part of like bad units or whatever, or had leadership, I always had it in my head that this is a phase, it'll pass, and it has always passed. It has always you work through the mud. Sometimes you put your head down and just keep yourself low. Other times you stand up and tell people like, no, you this is not how this is going to work, or you're an asshole. But there's always a level of tact to doing that stuff. It's very rare that you'll ever actually snap and have a moment, but it has happened with me. I've done it, but it was after long periods of very, very bad things happening. I mean, I lost it in Afghanistan. I lost it on one of the flight chiefs out there, because me and that kid Holton, we were sent out to a DFP right after an attack, and we were told that it was an exercise, but it wasn't an exercise. There was a credible threat, but we were sent to that DFP under the guise that it was an exercise, and we were sent out there with one magazine each for our rifle and no water, like nothing. So, and we only got told that it wasn't an exercise by the Army QRF, the Quick Reaction Force, that drove by our DFP, and they parked in front of our area. And then they got out and they were like, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, we're manning the DFP. Like, this is our job. And he said, all right, spare ammo, all that. I was like, no, it's an exercise. And he's like, this is not an exercise. What the hell are you talking about? We've got credible intel that they're trying to drive a bomb into the side of the face. Like, what the you mean exercise? And that was once that detail was over and the all clear was given and we went inside. That was when I went inside. That was one of the times in my career where I absolutely lost my mind. I flipped out. I had a real long, loud conversation with someone about that.
Well, I mean,
So
yeah, you're literally put into a life and death situation, being told that it's an exercise. You have very little ammo. You could have died at any second.
yeah,
Like
and
that's not cool. I would have lost my
exactly.
shit on that too. That is not cool. You
Yeah,
were literally putting my life in danger, you know, with your wording of, whatever. Like
yeah,
that's terrible.
yeah. And I had to make it very clear during that conversation. Like, I do not have a problem dying for the cause. That's not the issue here. The issue is that I have an issue dying for the cause when I'm not equipped properly. Um, you give me the training and the weapons and supplies and all that I need for the fight, and I will get into the fight. But telling me that it's one thing and then it being another thing, no, that's not okay. For anybody that's watching, don't ever think that just because you go higher in the chain, you get more freedom to have your a moment or whatever. You don't. You really don't. And if you ever hear those stories about, dude, the chief flipped out and was screaming and if you hear those stories, either A, they are blown up out of proportion, or B, no one was ever supposed to know that happened. Like, because I've only ever seen men and women at that level really get into the weeds when I was in meetings that I was not actually supposed to be in. Like when I was a senior airman in Load Barn and I would go to the group meetings, and this is with the group commander, the 74th, 75th commanders, the 41st commander, the wing king, the weapons chief, the ammo chief. There is so many stripes and all this brass sitting around. And these are all men and women that have been in minimum 15, 16 years, right? They start getting loud with each other. And they're like, ammo's talking to weapons and weapons is talking to ammo. And then the wing king gets in the middle of them and is like, look, both of you. And I'm hearing, the full bird, I'm hearing the colonel say shit like that to the chief. And the chief will look back at the colonel and be like, no, fuck you. I'm not dealing with that shit.
Oh,
And well,
oh,
but the thing is, what you have to remember is that I I leave, I may be telling the story, but I leave names out of it and all that stuff because
right, right.
I'm not a chief. I was never privy to any of those conversations, man. I was there as a low level representative, uh, pretty much just to show face for Load Barn other than the chief. That was an eye opener to me when I was like, holy crap, they are literally just like us. They are just like us. They just happen to be chiefs and they don't do this in front of the lower enlisted or the lower officers or whatever. And then you also find out, yeah, the chief and the colonel have been in for about the same amount of time, and the colonel respects the chief. The colonel knows, like, dude, that's chief. Don't with chief. But at the same time, the chief is saying the exact same thing to all the lower officers. Yeah, I don't go playing games with the colonel. He'll tear your head off. Like it's this crazy dichotomy and this wild set of rules, but it all pans out because once you have that much experience and that many stripes and you have dealt with so many higher people, you've gone and talked to the Secretary of Defense, you've been in the Pentagon in those meetings and things like that. Your scope goes from right here, your scope is so far out and you have so many eyes and can see and are privy to so many things that sometimes someone needs to be told to shove it. And if it comes from the chief or it comes from the colonel or something like that, yeah, you probably should listen. So,
Probably. You don't. I wouldn't want to argue with the colonel, but I only have 2 stripes, so I wouldn't want to argue with the colonel.
yeah, and I mean, and that's one of those jokes that my dad said, man. Whenever I've had to go talk to generals and things like that, he was like, just remember this, man. If you count more than one star, you're probably talking to that guy for too long. So, uh, just keep your head down and stay out of the weeds with it. But yeah, dude, it happens, but it's always right place, right time. And the guys at that level have more or less mastered right place, right time.
And a lot of those conversations happen behind closed doors, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a closed door meeting. And when I say closed door, I mean like they're in the Wing Kings meeting room, which is behind, another set of closed doors and another set of closed doors, and then there's not people walking around in the hallways and during that meeting. Like everyone kind of is like, oh shit, I just saw 4 chiefs, the lieutenant colonel, couple majors, and then the boss, like the big dog on campus. He was the last one to walk into that room. We should probably all just like go to lunch or some, because who knows? They might just be having they might just be all having a glass of scotch. Who knows?
I mean,
But
it's just
they
like
could
a
all,
load barn when the evaluators are writing everything down and they tell you, hey, don't worry about what we're writing down. We might be writing down our lunch order, but you're always paranoid that they're writing something down about you.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's best to just ignore that it's even happening. You're like, oh, and then you just walk away. You're like, well, I'm not a chief, and I'm not even an officer to begin with. So I'm just going to leave that alone. If they need to tell me something, I am positive I will find out. And then you move on. Like I said, it's a million different experiences. Been around the world twice. I've talked to everybody once, and even I still think that I'm relatively low on the tier of like people who have done stuff. Like, there are guys here with me that have literally been all around the world and have seen and talked to so many different people from so many different nations, armies, countries, and all these things. And I'm trying to be that guy. Like, I want to go everywhere. I want to do everything. I want to meet all the people, see all the sights, get into the fray, end up in the, you know what I mean?
I mean, you got another 10 years.
So, but unfortunately, as you move up, you stop.
Those chances go down and down.
Oh, dude, significantly. Like they drop so heavily. Because once you're a flight chief, it's like, all right, you don't necessarily go on all the TDYs and stuff anymore. You don't deploy every time anymore. Because they only need, 1, maybe 2 of you guys. And that's that. So part of it is letting the people that you're with and above you and all that stuff, letting them know what your intention, what your goal is. So like when I walked into the helicopter unit, and I had my sit down with the flight chief, and he was like, all right, this is your job. This is what you're doing, all that stuff. What you got for me? One of the things I told him was, don't ask me if I want to TDY or deploy. Just put my name on the list, period. Don't even give me the option. Just send me. And so far, that has been it. Everything that has come up, I've gone it. I've done it. Been a part of it. And I love it. I love being on the move. I love going to crazy, exotic, weird places. And it's the life for me, man. It always has been.
The 74 just went on a TDY to Guam.
I saw that and I was like, really? I spent 8 years around with this unit, and then they go to I was like, okay.
Well, and what sucked for me was that I haven't gone on one single TDY. I've not gone on a single TDY, and then I ended up here. And I'm in back shop, so my odds of going on a TDY here are even lower.
Right.
But when they put that out saying, yeah, we're going to go on this TDY, first it was to the Philippines and then it ended up being to Guam. I put my name on the list and, put my crew's name on the list and whatnot. And then the flight chiefs kind of looked at me and they're like, you're PCSing. And I'm like, yeah, but my report no later than and my projected departure are like a month and a half after, when you guys leave. And he was like, yeah, but you're PCSing. I'm like, God damn. So at that point I already knew I was out of it. At roll call, when all the 2 men are up there and it was, hey, what 2 man has their box out?
Yeah.
And all the 2 men who had their boxes out, go the home.
Yep.
I had only heard stories about that. The one day that because I was asked to be moved to days so I could out process. And so I didn't get a box out. And the one day I didn't do that, he goes, 2 men with keys, go home. And so I'm like,
Yep.
well, I mean, I'm out processing anyway. So my understanding is I'm not going to be doing as much because they know I need to focus on this.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong.
Oh yeah, no, you got loaded with everything.
Boy, was I wrong. And it's like, I'm trying to do all this freaking 35 pieces of paper and get all these
Yeah.
documents in for these pieces of paper. And you're going to make me go out and do whatever it was. Because he's like,
Yeah.
you're still here. You still have responsibilities. You're still a 2-man. You're still certified. This and that. You need to go and get your box. So I'm like, all right, fine. Or I didn't say it like that, but I'm like, all right, I'll go and get that. Because I didn't want to argue with him. Ripped my CAC out of the computer, went and got my keys, locked it up at the bike rack, and never touched it. Not once did I touch it. And I went back, threw my CAC back in the computer, started out processing again.
So, and the thing is that right there is one of those things that we were talking about earlier. That is the old Air Force bleeding into the new one, and vice versa. Because me as an expediter, and I'm by no means am I saying that Greg made the wrong decision or anything like that.
I totally understand his call on that. I totally understand.
But my thing is, for me as an expediter, I would have immediately asked. They've been like, why don't you have a box? It's Sergeant, I'm out processing. Oh, that's right. Brown's he's useless to me anyways today. All right, never mind. And that's, like I said, that's the bleed over in, because I mean, you were saying that whole whoever's got keys go home, dude. When I was in Aviano, it was every Friday, the crew that had the cleanest uniform, those 3 guys went home every Friday. It was a competition. People had whole uniforms that were meant for Friday, and they sat in a closet every other day of the week. And then they would come into work with that uniform on, trying to be the spiffiest. And then sometimes pull it off, and sometimes that guy's crease is better or whatever.
Oh, no.
So,
at that point, you better have your spare uniform with you to change into that.
Oh no!
In case you didn't.
Well, that's just it.
In case you didn't make it.
That's just it. Is after 1 or 2 times of that happening, everybody started wearing their super nice uniform to work, and they had their ratty one in a backpack. So, but you know what that did? It instilled a sense of pride. And then on top of that, every single Friday, the weapon shop was crisp. At the beginning of every shift, the weapon shop would stand up to do roll call, and all, like you said, like 15 people, everyone, impeccable uniform. So the flight chiefs got to like kind of laud that over the other shops. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but my dudes they're straight. You see them, they're good. Like it was, and it built that idea, and then it was just yet another competition, because weapons is pretty much always a competition in some way, shape, or form. But it was just another competition that got added to the list of competitions, man. Hey, I notice your boots aren't even remotely as clean as mine, dork. And then you keep moving, like, So I miss stuff like that. I miss it. I miss small things like that. But I can understand why it has gone away. And every chance that I get, I try and do stuff like that. But that changing of the guard, if you will, it makes it hard.
I mean, and that's one thing that Senior Beard was trying to implement, was because I think the 75th, they can show up to roll call in their dickies, because as soon as roll call is dismissed, they just go out and they just work, but that's something that Senior Beard was trying to implement or trying to enforce was, this is, I forget what the word was that he said, but this is basically where we as a flight need to be at least semi-uniform, and you cannot wear your dickies, and try to make your uniforms as clean as you can. Because he knew the majority of us, those were the uniforms we worked in. I got a pair of hot weather OCPs, just a little while ago. And even since I've been at back shop, I've gotten grease on them, or
Oh yeah.
whatever, scuffed up my boots, whatever it is, but I work in that uniform, but he was trying to get it to the point where you just said, to where at least at the beginning of the shift, everybody is clean to a degree. We're maintenance, but to a degree we're clean and we're uniform and we're together.
Yeah.
And so as soon as roll call hit, or as soon as that ended, we all jumped in the -21 room after senior converted that other room that we used for changing. We all jumped in the -21 room, stripped down. I had my Dickies on underneath my uniform, which in the dead of summer in Georgia, everyone looked at me and thought I was crazy. But I had it ready to go, and it was just like, all right, cool, let's rock and roll. And I wore my Dickies pretty much whenever. I threw them out because I'm not using them here. But they were gross because that's just how maintainers are, especially on the Warthog. It's just gross.
Oh yeah. The whole thing is just a dirty piece of machinery, but it was our dirty piece of machinery.
That's true. Yeah. Do you have any plans for once you eventually separate from the Air Force?
There's always a million plans, you know what I mean? You can plan for anything, but if there's one thing being in has taught me is to stay on your toes. So because like right now I'm going through it's online, but it's not because they send you the work. So it's an armorer's course. It's to become a certified gunsmith, but it's not just online paperwork and whatnot. They send you kits and things like that you have to build out of whatnot. So
that's something that our job actually translates to.
Right. Especially working with the helicopters, because it's 50 caliber machine guns, and Gautu miniguns, the little A10 guns, if you will. But I do that, or am doing that. So it's maybe a route that I'll go once I get out, because I'll keep doing this forever. But at the same time, if I'm getting out and a job at Lockheed Martin opens up, I'll take that. But the fallback plan, if nothing else works out, dude, I'm gonna be a postman. I'm gonna deliver mail. You kidding me? I'll get out after 30. So think about it. If I do 30 years as a chief, I will get out at 48 years old.
That's
30
true.
years in
That's
the Air Force,
true.
I won't even be 50.
That's true.
So, dude, all right. If I get out with a 30-year chief paycheck, the way I live my life, I would never have to work another day in my life.
That's true.
Because I don't live above my means. Same time though, all right, might as well get another job. I'm only 48. Why not walk around, be a postman, deliver people's mail, and then work for the post office long enough and get a second government retirement? Like,
there you go.
So, but in the end, man, I intend to have a very simple life. I don't know how I'll feel at that point in time. I might still have that real bad bug for adventure and all that, or who knows, maybe by the time I'm 48, after 30 years of doing all this movement and running around and just being a madman across the globe, maybe I'll be like, nope, I'm good. I'll buy my house out in Nevada and just sit. Who knows? But I'm one of those people that have always tried to plan for the future, but I'd never set too much in stone because anything can change in a moment. I guess the best answer to that would be I'm going to probably be a postman with a gunsmithing degree.
Hey, at least a gunsmithing degree is better than underwater basket weaving.
No, dude, I once met a fighter pilot, a F-16 fighter pilot. His degree to get into the academy was in religious affairs, religious study. I swear to God. At least that's what he told me. I was
he's
an airman,
a fighter
so
pilot.
He could have been with me because I was an airman, but that's what he told me. His degree was in religious affairs, and he was like, it was the easiest degree to get, so I could go fly combat aircraft for the U.S. Air Force. And I was like, you know what? All right. That makes sense.
I mean,
do 4 years of bullshit just to go be a fighter pilot. Why not?
Yeah, right. I mean, going into oh, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, having multiple pensions. My grandfather enlisted during World War II, or he was with the Ohio National Guard during World
Mhm.
War II, got activated, went to the Philippines, was in the Philippines for a couple of years, went back home and was in the Guard his entire time. And he was originally enlisted. I have a photo. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. So I have this postcard from him.
Wow.
And this was Corporal Charles L. Brown.
Wow.
And yeah, from 1940 something. He was active between 39 and 45, so that's his 6 year mark. But
Yeah.
this was from the 40s, and then eventually somewhere in there, but he ended up retiring as a lieutenant colonel
Oh, wow. Holy
in the army. Yeah,
yeah. That's
and
wild.
and and so he got out as lieutenant colonel, and Goodyear, the tire company.
Yeah.
Yeah, he then went and worked for Goodyear and got a pension from them after 20 years. And then my grandmother was a preschool teacher. And so she got a degree, or she got a pension for being a preschool teacher. She's 95 and still living off of all of these pensions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's part of the American dream is to work a lot of your younger life. So in your older years, you don't have to, and you can do whatever the hell you want when you're an old man. And that's why men like our grandfathers and stuff like that, they're just old, ornery men. They're just, I do whatever I want. I fart in public and you because I'm an old man. Like I do whatever the hell I want because that's how my grandfather is. He was my dad. Well, both of my grandfathers on both sides of the family were military. My dad's dad was a cavalry scout in Vietnam, and my mom's dad was a boiler room mechanic on Navy destroyers during the Korean War. Um,
Okay.
and and my dad's dad has a lot more salt than my mom's dad. My mom's dad is actually kind of a soft-spoken man, but my dad's dad, on the other hand, he is the most ornery. Uh, I do whatever I want because I'm old as hell. Like that is how Grandpa Call works. Uh, like my wedding, he this man showed up to my wedding in blue jeans and a Harley t-shirt. And he's got a big old beer gut and all this shit because he's an old man. And my mom and my dad, which my parents are divorced and have been forever, but that was one of the few moments after they got divorced where they came back together as like a team and went and talked to my grandfather, and they were like, "Al, what the?" And he's like, "What?" They're like, "You're at a wedding. Why are you in blue jeans and a Harley t-shirt?" He was like, "Because I wasn't digging my suits out for this. This is his second marriage. You." Oh, it's like, Al. Like even I said it. I was like, Al, Grandpa, you can't. What the? And he's like, "But shut up, Josh." He's like, "You're." He's like, "Dude, you're like what, 15?" I'm like, "Al, I'm 26. What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm 15. Whatever." And then this man proceeds to go back to his Harley and pull a bottle of whiskey out of his Harley, and he sat at the table with my dad. My dad is in a suit with his wife at the time. She's in a nice dress. My mother is in a everyone's dressed up because it's a wedding, and everyone is just staring at this old man in jeans and a Harley t-shirt taking pulls off of a full whiskey bottle. Like he's not pouring it into a flask or no, it's a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he's just looking around at all these people. He didn't give a. That man still doesn't give a.
He's an old fart who doesn't care.
Yeah, not at all. And I was like, as embarrassing as this is, I can respect that. Like, he's an old Army cavalry scout from the Vietnam era. What else did you expect? Like, come on. Hey, what else is there? There's nothing else. He's just old and pissed off because he's pissed off because he's old. That's all there is to it.
I mean, you can laugh at that all day long. And then there's my grandfather who didn't want anything to do with his military service. He didn't even want World War II on his gravestone. But he was also pretty much in the trenches during World War II in the Philippines. And there was just he just didn't talk about that.
Yeah. That's another thing, man, that has changed. And I honestly think it's changed for the better, is that war isn't such a stigma anymore. You don't have to like bottle up your feelings and not talk to anybody ever about it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna go and talk to some random civilian or even just a random military member. I'm not just gonna go spouting off about some of the crazy that I've seen or done. But it's not a stigma to get help anymore. It's not like damning anymore. And I'm glad that it's gotten to that point, because I mean, we've all seen it, and hell, they've made movies about it. The issues that come from deployments and all that, because it absolutely used to be, don't talk about it. Nope. You weren't there. You'll never understand. It doesn't matter. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. And that's how it used to be. My dad is still very much like that. And I've seen some of the old footage of some of the stuff that he's done, and I'm like, holy, I didn't know that you did these things. And he's like, yeah, there's a reason you don't know that, because I was your dad. I was not trying to be, the door kicker to you. Yeah, you didn't need to know that I breached houses in Afghanistan with a 12 gauge shotgun and engaged the enemy within 5 feet of me. You didn't need to know that. You never needed to know that. So, and at that point, he is right. Like, that's not necessarily something you want to talk about with children or anyone really, but you go talk to someone about it. Go get, that, and you don't even have to consider it help, but being able to just go and like dump it all off. And that's what therapists and psychiatrists and all that's what they're for. And I'm glad to see that the military is finally shifting to a point where they are very openly telling everybody across all the branches, like, it is okay to go talk to a professional about any of the stuff that you have seen or done that bothers you. It is okay to do that. I promise you. I'm glad we're finally at that point.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where to go off of that.
Sorry, dude. You can make a hard transition if you want to. That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, a lot of times I can break it into, the next topic or something, but I don't even know where the hell to go off of that.
Yeah, sorry. That was on me.
That was deep. That was deep. That was tough. That was hard. But it's true. It really is. It's true. I mean, we don't have many stories from my grandfather from the war, unless they're like humorous stories. There was one story that, he was in the outhouse and he heard something that he thought was like fire or something like that, or shots or something. And so he pulled up his pants and ran the hell out, and then giant ass oak tree just went right on top of the outhouse. He heard the tree crack, but he thought it was gunfire.
Yeah.
And so he ran out, but it was giant ass oak tree. And but those are really the only stories we have. A cool story. This was way after he passed away. He passed away in 2003. I was living with my dad out in West Virginia, and we were in this little remote town, population maybe 300. And one day he goes to the post office. They say, "Hey, we got this big ass box for you." And we're like, "I don't know what the hell's going on." Or we're like, "What the hell's going on?" And we open it up. All of these war letters, all of these old pictures, everything. We had no idea these even existed. And the lady at the post office said, yeah, apparently these letters have been lost in the mail for like 30 years. And we've been trying to get in contact with somebody from his family, and they eventually tracked you down in this little remote town in West Virginia.
Wow.
And I mean, giant ass box of
Yeah.
like a Home Depot medium-sized box worth of this shit. And now it's all in a binder and we've got pictures for it. And I just got a lot of these old pictures and stuff colorized for him for Christmas, which is a completely other story in and of itself. But, you know, we would have never known that any of this would have happened. There were times where he was there and he was talking about the natives there. And we have no idea where this letter ended up, but we know it's in a letter somewhere because we read over all of them. But he referenced them as, yeah, the little shadows went out and did this, this, and that, and the other thing and helped us out with whatever. But he called them little shadows. I mean, but that's also the time period because at the time that was acceptable. You can't go out and tell someone they're a little shadow right now, but you know, but at the time that was acceptable. You know, but we would have never known that side of anything that he had gone through because those letters were supposed to go to God knows who, you know, and never made it there. It's just insane what those guys went through. Would you recommend weapons to potential airmen, trainees, people who are looking at joining? Would you recommend weapons as a career field to go into?
So I would. The only thing is I would, as long as whoever you're talking to gives you an actual like representation of what it is. Because we've all heard the stories, you know, recruiters are going to lie to you just to get their numbers and all that bullshit. So, for someone like me, yeah, I would recommend it for sure. But it's very much so dependent on what you want to do, and that's why it's kind of an iffy question because someone, you know, just random rip off the street or someone who's watching this, that depends. Do you like working with your hands? Do you like not being home? Do you like deploying and TDYing and all this stuff? Because we do a lot of that, and that's also dependent on where you are, you know, where you end up, or if you're a reservist, or if you're active duty or guard, or all these. You know, there's so many factors that play into these things. But on the whole, I would say, yeah, it's rewarding for sure. But at the same time, there are definitely other maintenance career fields that will help you out a lot more than weapons if you know, decide to get out. Like I was saying earlier, all the guys that work on the helicopter, other than the weapons dudes, they have so much other system knowledge that, you know, they can get out and go fix private helicopters. You know what I mean? I can't do that. That's just not in my wheelhouse. If I was part of it.
I mean, and when we look it up online for job translators, for what our job translate to, it literally, one of them, either they're all logistics jobs or a baggage handler.
Yeah. So, and every weapon troop always has that pipe dream of working for Boeing or Lockheed Martin or some jazz like that. But trust me, those jobs are very few and in between. And furthermore than that, that's a lot of the hookup. You need to have someone in the industry, or I should say, it helps to have someone in the industry that can basically recommend you, take your application, put it at the top of the stack, and tell their boss, like, this is the dude. So, but as far as a military career path goes, I love this job. I always have. We have a lot more broadening things in the way of maintenance because a lot of the crew chiefs are stuck on an airframe until a certain point in their career. And just a lot of those specialties kind of end up stuck in a certain place. But us, you know it, as soon as you get your 5 level, you're opened up to any airframe that holds a weapon system. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of opportunity in that sense. And then I think I had mentioned it a minute or two ago, but it is very rewarding to know hands down what you're doing for whatever engagement you are involved with. So I bet, yeah, man.
And then last one I have here, do you have any final tips or words of encouragement for someone who's looking to join the Air Force or the armed forces in general?
I would say to make sure you know what you're getting into and you are uh what you are signing away. Because you 100% waiver some of your rights joining. There are certain things that you're just not allowed to do anymore. Certain places you can't go. Hell, even certain things you can't say. Uh, so it's not saying don't join, but it's saying make sure you know what you're getting into. Because I think I've met a lot of young guys in my career that I don't think they understood the full breadth of what they were getting into. I had an airman who showed up, got put under me as my 2-man, and 6 months later he was in Afghanistan with me. That kid had no idea that shit was coming. He did not think that was going to happen. He hated every moment of it. He hated every moment of being in the military because I don't think he had a good understanding of what military life is. And after we got back from Afghanistan, he approached me and was like, "Is there a way for me to break my service contract?" And I was like, "Not legally." And he was like, he was giving me those like the weird look of like, "Dude, I'm just about ready to do anything to get out." And I was like,
Just smoke
"Look,
some weed. Just smoke some
well,
weed.
that's just it. That's just it, though. Is like he was hinting at that real hard, and I was like, dude, problem with that is then you're going to get an other than honorable discharge, and that doesn't look good, and it doesn't necessarily kill opportunity outside, but it definitely doesn't help. But you know what does help is having an honorable discharge from the military. So I told him I would uh, I would do what I can, and I talked to all the people that I knew as high up the chain as I could go. Um, I asked my dad, like in an official capacity. I didn't ask my dad Joe. I asked Chief Coll, like, "Hey, is there a way that I can help this kid? Like, I'm at a loss here." And he was like, I think your airman might be kind of fucked." But as it would turn out, serendipity at its finest. That airman would approach me a couple months later and handed me a piece of paper, and it was a drawback program. And it was they were asking for senior airmen and below to get out of weapons specifically. And he was like, "This is an opportunity to where I can get out, and it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't hurt anybody. Can we push this?" And I said, "Are you sure it's what you want?" And I told them come back to me in 2 days because it was a time frame thing. I was like, "Come back to me in 2 days, and I want you to really sit down and think about it," because he was 18. He had just left home for the first time ever, all that shit. But he came back 2 days and he said, I thought about it. I talked with a lot of friends and family, and I really mulled it over, and yeah, this is what I want to do. And I said, all right, cool. And we ran the paperwork, and we removed him from the U.S. Air Force, but it was on good terms. So, but that's what I'm saying. The original point being, try your best to talk to as many people as you can that are in or were in or whatever, and try and find people that both loved it and people that hated it. Like, you need to get as much information on it as possible, because coming in completely blind, you might end up getting screwed. I got lucky because I came in essentially blind, but I've enjoyed every moment of it for the most part. So that would be my overall advice: is really, really, really know what you're getting into. And then also, whatever job you're looking at getting to, as much research into that as possible as well. So you don't end up thinking it's one thing and then it turns out it's not.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thank you, Sergeant Coll, for being on. It's been great catching up. It's been great talking to you. Good luck with everything that you've got going on. Of course, I don't know what's going on. You can't say what's going on, what you've got going on, but good luck with all of that. Hope you come home safe. And if you have anybody else that you want to see on the podcast, let me know down in the comments. I'll do my best to get in touch with them, to get them on. I love talking to people, hearing people's experiences. That's the whole point of this podcast, is that everybody has a story, and this is a great way to be able to share it. So I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Later, guys.